Welcome to Preparing for the Unexpected. Today, we're going to be talking about cyber resilience versus traditional business continuity and disaster recovery. I'd like to welcome back to the show today founder and CISO at Cyber Risk Opportunities, Kip Boyle. Kip, welcome back.
Hey Alex, I'm really glad to be back. Really enjoyed the last conversation we had.
Yeah, it was great, and obviously, you have liked it so much that you're sucker for punishment and came back.
Yeah, I came back for more. Let's do it.
Well, we've got a loaded topic, like I said, cyber resilience versus traditional BC and DR. So my
Mhm.
first question to you is to understand the difference between well, actually define what cyber resilience is. Let's
Right.
start there.
Um, Now, as I answer your question, Alex, I just want to caveat by saying I was never trained in the BCDR, arts, right? So my observations really just come as a practitioner who just has sort of observed other professionals working in the BCDR space, where they've had some professional training. So I hope that as I answer the question, I'm not too ill-informed, as to what folks really believe, but I think adding, just my experience might be helpful. So a lot of folks that I've collaborated with on business continuity and disaster recovery, it seems like they kind of assume that the building has burnt down and then you sort of rebuild, like it's a discrete event, right? It's like, okay, it's that building's gone, or that asset has been destroyed utterly. Okay, now what are we going to do? But I find that cyber resilience kind of assumes that the arsonist is still inside your building, right? So it's not a discrete sort of thing. And one of the implications of that is that you have to operate, defend, and recover almost at the same time. So my working definition of cyber resilience is the ability to deliver your mission even while a cyber event is actively unfolding. And that leads me to see business continuity and disaster recovery kind of as a subset rather than as a synonym or as a competitor.
Oh, I just know there's people. I'm getting a lot of emails. I can tell you that now.
Again, this is just me, living in the world and just being on the other side of the fence.
Well, they have to work together, like
Oh yeah,
disaster recovery, cyber. So, a business continuity person could say cyber is another scenario they work with, so cyber is just underneath them. But really,
easily.
what
Yeah,
happens? They all have to work together, don't they? They
we
can't just
we
stand
do.
alone.
That's right. And I mean no disrespect. We do need to work together. I think this is just a kind of a classic case of this is what it looks like from where I'm standing, and my friends are looking at it from a different point of view, and it looks a little different. That's okay. We could still work together.
What's the biggest misconception that executives have with regards to cyber resilience?
Okay, again, this is just, me as a practitioner
Mhm.
answering your question. I'm not really leaning on any kind of textbook definition or framework or anything like that. But what I really see is kind of confusion around this idea that cyber resilience is an IT project and that has some sort of a deadline, right? And so they'll say things to me like, "Oh, well, we did the tabletop exercise, so we're resilient now, right? I have my pen. Can I check that box? Can I say we're resilient?" So I have to respond and go, great, wonderful that we did the tabletop, but resilience is really a capability that you maintain, not a box you check. It's sort of like, can you pay the suppliers that you owe money to, month in and month out? It's a capability. I can pay suppliers. Well, cyber resilience is a capability as well. You are resilient when you need to be, whenever that happens to come up. And then I'll just mention one other thing. There's another misconception, which is if I buy and install a data backup solution of some kind, then I'm resilient. And yes, backups are necessary, but they're not anywhere near sufficient. It's just one piece of the puzzle.
I know you mentioned the checkbox there. I think that is common with quite a few of the things that we'll touch on today, whether it be
Oh yeah.
cyber, information security, business continuity, disaster recovery, et cetera, go on down the line.
Yeah. Yeah,
It, it,
absolutely.
if
Yeah,
if we have that, then we are, insert whatever that may be. But
that's right.
really, that's just a point in time. But yet, with the
Hmm.
cyber world, everything is changing nonstop anyway. Well, in all of the world,
Absolutely.
everything is changing.
Yeah. Well, particularly cyber risk because um, it's a dynamic risk. It's not like other risks that as human beings, we're used to really dealing with more static risks. Like I think fires may be the quintessential example of that, right? The essence of fire has not changed in millennia, right? It's just heat, fuel, and oxygen. Take one away, fire goes out. Keep them from coming together, fire cannot start. And so I think I'm reading between the lines, but I think that's one of the reasons why senior decision makers struggle is because they're trying to treat cyber like it's a static risk, which is gives the checkbox mentality, but it's not. And I think that's where they get frustrated.
Well, they can't think of it as something easy to deal with because from what I know, now you're the CISO here. From what I know, the bad actors are actively trying to find ways to hack you,
That's right. They're innovating
nonstop.
constantly, right? Fire's not going to just suddenly go, oh, I see how they fight me. Next time I'm going to do something different. Or, if I could just learn how to burn brick, I'd conquer the world, right? That's not what fire is. But to your point, that's exactly what cyber is.
Yeah, and they keep changing it, but then we always seem to be, or organizations, leadership, whoever, seems
Hmm.
to only focus on the latest event and then try to get that taken care of, which
Very
let's
reactive.
say will take, let's say 6 months.
Yeah,
Once everything gets in place and you've tested it and implemented, they've already, the bad actors have already upgraded their way of attacking you three or
that's
four
right.
times at least.
And I could unpack that for the entire rest of the episode, but I'm just going to say, yes, you're right.
Oh, come on, you got to say more than that.
Oh, okay. Well, look, um, ransomware really changed the whole situation. Okay, so senior decision makers who maybe cut their teeth earlier in their career, maybe say 15, 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more, they saw cyber as kind of like I'm going to buy the way I'm going to deal with this is I'm going to buy the subscription to Norton Antivirus or McAfee. I'm going to pitch it over the wall at the IT people, and then I'll see you in a year when it's time for the renewal. And so there really was a time when cyber kind of masqueraded as a static risk. But of course, it doesn't do that anymore. And again, ransomware, right? So ransomware became feasible. Believe it or not, the first ransomware attack actually happened like back in 1986, but it never could scale because the traceability of the payment always got in the way. But cryptocurrency changed that. And even though cryptocurrency has, ledgers and we can do forensics, we can sort of trace the money, there's still a pseudonymous aspect to it, right? Where if I'm super, super careful, I might be able to pull my cryptocurrency out into a fiat currency and maybe not get caught. But in any event, um, the criminals have stolen so much money that when they're trying to figure out how to innovate against us, they are so well resourced. They have labs with every commercial product that we rely on, and they're constantly banging away against them, trying to figure out, okay, what's the next weakness or flaw in this product that everybody's counting on, and how can we exploit that? So we've got an extremely intelligent, very well resourced adversary, and the regulators have caught up. So if you're paying attention, right, the Security and Exchange Commission now has disclosure rules around material cyber events. In Europe, we've got the Digital Resilience Act in DORA.
Yeah.
Here, yeah, here in the United States, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework version 2. All of these things come together and say, yeah, you need to be resilient, and it's a state of being, not a checkbox.
Do you think maybe that's part of the problem is the standards also are really a point in time sometimes?
Well, yeah, that does become a problem because if you have a regulator that gives you a checklist, they're sort of like implying that this is a static risk. Do this checklist and you'll be fine. From an auditing perspective, that's probably true. But keeping the auditors happy is not the game, right? It's just
Right.
part of what's going on. And the auditors, God bless them, but they're fighting the last war, the last digital war, because um, if you really want to be good, you've got to be more meta than a checklist, as which is the point that we're making here, right? So, yeah, so the auditors are kind of feeding into this idea that it's a static risk, which you really want as a framework, and that's why I like the NIST cybersecurity framework because it talks about outcomes. It's not prescriptive. It doesn't tell you exactly which controls you need. That's an exercise that's left for you. I know a lot of professionals find that frustrating because it's much easier to just be given a checklist, but that's not as powerful. So you have to make your own checklist, kind of tailor the framework to your situation, and you're going to, I think, come out better.
I think that's what's missing with a lot of the standards and guidelines that are out there is sometimes they are too descriptive on you shall demonstrate A, B, and C. So you focus on that, but what you really needed was D, a combination of B and C,
Mm-hmm.
to really suit your business need, your
Yeah.
industry, your location, the culture you're in, and you
Yes.
could still end up with the same product, but the road you get there isn't always the same one that somebody else is driving.
Yeah, I think PCI DSS is a perfect example. Payment card industry data security standard. For years and years and years, it was just a very meticulous, detailed checklist. And I ran into situations over and over and over again where certain items on the checklist just did not apply for a particular environment that I was working in. And it was a nightmare trying to, advocate for a compensating control or just any deviation at all was really, really difficult. And so a lot of people just go, okay, fine, I'll do it your way. And that's the kind of compromise I don't think is very good.
No, that's when you're setting yourself up for failure. You're kind of could be opening the door up to attack that way because
Yeah,
you're doing what someone else is doing rather than what you need to be doing.
correct. And they're not making it easy.
No, they're not. On that, we've come to the end of our first segment. We are talking with Kip Boyle today, CEO, CISO, and founder at Cyber Risk Opportunities, and we will be right back.